Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the College Town Podcast. It's that weird week in between Christmas and New Year's.
It
Most people,
is.
most people take it easy this week, not us. We're we're still giving you a show. Uh, I am gonna sit out the second half of this show though.
Or, is that what you're going to do?
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
going to take the reins, see what we have available for next season on the podcast.
Someone else is So Jacob's gonna come in
I got you.
and just try his best on short notice.
And why do you mention that, Derek?
Well, that's what happened with Miami. Uh, So Miami and Iowa State played in the Pop-Tarts Bowl, aka the Tangerine Bowl,
Mm-hmm.
and that was a game. So Cam Ward had announced he was playing in that game, and my instinct when I heard that, I was like, "Oh, Miami's gonna roll," because Iowa State had a really really good offense in the beginning of the year. Teams kind of figured it out in the second half of the year, and I just don't. I know Miami's defense is terrible at it, but I didn't think that Iowa State's offense would be able to keep up. I assumed that they would roll, like just roll, easy victory for Miami. And then Cam Ward played in the first half. He broke, I believe, Case Keenum's record for most passing touchdowns in a single season.
Oh, I see.
hmm And then in the second half, he just sat out.
Yeah, he did.
So technically, he started the game. Technically, that's a loss on his record, but he was a voluntary scratch in the second half.
Yeah.
And Emory Williams had to come in and play. And he was the quarterback last year that stepped in for Tyler Van Dyke, looked great in the game that he played, and then broke his arm.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, just immediately had after looking great in one game, immediately had to go right back to the bench because he couldn't play. Um, and that's why they brought in Cam Ward because Emory Williams was not going to be healthy for the beginning of the year. I'm a little bit shocked that he's healthy at all because I mean that was a bad arm injury that he had. Um, if you remember, it was really grotesque.
Yeah, it
But
was. I remember that.
yeah, when he came in, they were not the same Miami team at all,
No,
not even close. And he looked pretty bad.
he did. I think I got a couple of opinions on this. I
Yeah,
think, like, is it okay to be mad at Cam Ward for sitting out the second half of the Pop-Tarts Bowl?
I think so.
I think so a little bit. But at the same time, aren't bowl games at this point just glorified exhibition games?
Unfortunately, yeah.
Like, does this game really matter? All it really does, in a way, is you kind of get a little bit of a preseason into like what your next season's teams look like. And you can't even really say that because it's like transfer portal. You could have a completely new team next season.
Yeah, I
I
think
will say, oh, go.
I was just gonna say I think winning a bowl game is still important because yeah, bowl games aren't really that important anymore. But if enough time passes, I think people kind of forget that, and you can look back and be like, oh, well, we won the Pop Tart Bowl. We beat Cam Ward in the Pop Tarts Bowl, and recruits are gonna be like, oh my god, that's awesome. An 11 win season, the first ever 11 win season. Which, by the way, let's talk about Matt Campbell for just a second. First ever 11 win season in the history of Iowa State football. He is their winningest coach ever in program history. He now has his third bowl win since he's been there. That is the most in Iowa State history all time.
Mm.
It's crazy how not good Iowa State is historically. But Matt
I mean,
Campbell,
they had what, Brock Purdy 1 year?
that was with Matt Campbell.
Yeah,
It's pretty much everything that they've had comes under Matt Campbell.
good on him.
But yeah, no, I think winning a game is still important, even if it's not important in the moment. And I get why it's not important in the moment.
I
A
mean,
lot of
like,
bowl games, they've come down to which team has more motivation.
I, yes and no, but it's also like, I guess it's like, do you care? And it's like, for the case of Cam Ward, he cared about breaking a record, and he did that. And it's like, what more does he have to play for?
Well, it's also rumored that he probably had incentives in his NIL contract
Mm,
that if he broke that record and if he started the bowl game, that he probably got money.
mm.
And he did both of those things, and he's like, okay, I'm done.
Well, I mean, like,
Money.
at what point? I mean, like, he's probably at this moment in time the number two prospect behind Shador.
Mhm.
I mean, like, what more does he have to prove for his draft capital? It's like, if you look at, I mean, we could do the exact opposite as far as like draft capital goes and look at Carson Beck. This time last year, his capital was sky high, and now,
I don't know why though.
but it was.
I know, but
And
it was high because he was a quarterback that played for a brand name school.
but he also had some really good players around him. But that's nor here nor there. That's we're not here to talk about Carson Beck. Like, I really don't have too much of an issue of Cam Ward sitting out the second half. And also, here's what I think. I think you can be mad at him, and I think that's valid. I don't think that he was the reason why they lost the game, because at some point, you're giving up 42 points. Your defense has got to stop something.
Well, their defense is awful, but my counter to that was my belief was that Cam Ward was going to play the whole game. I thought, oh, he's going to be able to just like tear apart this defense that's been fading as of late this season. And I think he did that in the first half. And I think he would have continued to do that in the second half, but he didn't give himself the opportunity. And I think with everyone with it becoming so commonplace for players to sit out bowl games, each situation is different. I get it. I think Cam Ward does deserve credit for actually playing the first half. I also think he deserves hate for sitting out the second half because he was a healthy scratch.
He was. But also, it's like, if you're looking at his career as a whole, he did what a lot of guys didn't do. He didn't opt out.
Well, that's what I'm saying. He deserves some credit, but not all of it because he didn't
Right.
play the game voluntarily.
Right.
That this whole conversation of like the noticeable drop off of Cam Ward in the game versus out of the game brings me back to something that I've talked about for a long time. Uh, when I say a long time, I mean probably like the last 3 weeks, basically since the portal is open, which it has since closed as of a couple days ago. The last day it was open was the 28th. Um, and that's that Miami needs a quarterback for next year
Yeah.
because from what it was sounding like to me, I was just trying to read the tea leaves here. It sounded like they didn't want to play Emory Williams next season because he was a true sophomore this year. He didn't play enough, so he's going to be a redshirt sophomore next year. Um, there's a very, very small sample size with Emory Williams. He looked great a year ago. He looked awful in the Pop-Tarts Bowl. And they wanted someone else. And so they're going to have to go and get someone else. But I was looking at the quarterbacks in the portal, and it just slowly and slowly, there were fewer and fewer quarterbacks, especially fewer and fewer good quarterbacks for Miami to go after. Now the portal was closed, and there's no one else. The only other people that can transfer are the playoff schools.
Mm.
Um, the NCAA has said that after your run in the playoff ends, you can transfer up to
You
seven.
can go in the portal. I was wondering that. I genuinely was wondering how this works.
Yeah, I believe it's 7 days. Um,
After your game, after your loss,
yeah, yeah. After your season ends, you have 7 more days to hit the portal if you want.
I mean, that's still a lot of guys, potentially. A lot of elite guys, too, potentially.
Potentially, yeah. But there's also, I mean, we'll see how that shakes up. But if we're looking at the guys that are still available in the portal, so the top rated guy, according to 24/7, is Matthew Sluka. Sluka was a runner. Like he was not a passer at UNLV. He was absolutely a running quarterback. And then you scroll down, the next two guys are like Malachi Nelson and Devin Brown. Malachi Nelson couldn't start over Maddox Madsen. That's not a good sign. Devin Brown was the backup for a reason in Ohio the last couple of years. And then the only other two guys are Daquan Finn, who I think kind of flamed out at Baylor this year, and Tyler Van Dyke, who was at Miami, and they ran him out of town. And so it's kind of like it's hit that point where it's like, okay, I think Miami's not going to get a quarterback in the portal, and I think that's going to like severely hamper them because I'm not a huge believer in Mario Cristobal. I think he needs a quarterback to actually be good. I think we've seen that in the past. Um, and if they don't have a quarterback next year, they might fall off severely.
They could. Um, I do think it's interesting, just given the market and what you say is available. Not condoning this, but is there a world where they could tamper with a quarterback and just give him the Miami Buku's money that they have? Because it's like, hey, we know you're in a good spot. You're top eight. Like, let's think about like the top eight quarterbacks right now, right?
Yeah. There's kind of nine if you think about it with Texas's situation.
Yeah, it's an interesting one there. Or even like, are any of these backups that are waiting suitable for a Miami caliber team?
Yeah.
So I mean, like, there's multitude of variables here to go after here. But I wouldn't say like that is what they're limited to right now. I mean, we will see because there's definitely going to be guys out of these eight teams that are going to be transferring out.
So here's the rumor. I brought up Texas. Here's the rumor surrounding that is that there's already an offer in place. It's an offer. I don't. It's as far as I know. I don't know if it's like
Well,
a deal, but it's an offer from Ohio State for Quinn Ewers.
I've heard that.
Yeah, I've heard that there's anywhere from like 3 or 4 million already just like waiting on the table. I don't know if that's actually a real number, but the point is that there's a lot of money waiting on the table for Quinn Ewers if he chooses to transfer out of Texas, which I think he will. It sounds like the coaching staff, just from what I can gather, they're ready to move on,
They're ready to
and
make the change. It
yeah,
makes
they're ready
sense.
to start Arch Manning.
Yeah.
And
And
so
Ewers is a good quarterback.
he is a good quarterback. He's a really good college quarterback, and that might be Miami's last ditch effort because they have money. They have so much money in
They do.
NIL, and so that's not really an issue. The issue is, can they get any? Because all these guys in the portal they swung at, they missed. And that happened last year too, until Cam Ward withdrew his name from the draft and was like, "No, actually, I am going to go to the portal." And then they were kind of one of the only teams left without a quarterback. So like, no, we'll pay you everything.
Yeah.
And I just don't think that's going to happen this year. The only situation going to happen with is Quinn Ewers, and I just feel like Quinn Ewers is going to Ohio State.
We'll see. We'll see what Miami's quarterback situation comes out to.
I just think that they're going to have to play Emory Williams, and I think that's going to be up and down because we've seen both sides of Emory Williams. One was really, really good. One was really bad.
One was pre-injury too. A big injury.
Yeah. I mean, two is non-throwing arm, but still. I believe it was non-throwing arm, right?
I thought it was a leg. I could be wrong.
He broke his arm.
Oh, okay.
But anyway.
We'll see.
All right, that's our Miami discussion. Um, I mean, you want to talk about BYU Colorado?
Not really. No. I don't really have too
Well,
much to say. BYU looked
I don't
good. Colorado looked bad. BYU rushed the ball. Colorado did not run the ball. Like they rushed the ball eight times. Like there's not much to this.
the story of this game didn't even turn out to be the game.
It was the announcers.
Yeah,
Apparently they were loving everything Colorado was doing, even though BYU was just so dominant the entire time.
which I'm not surprised by. This has been a little bit of a trend. Like broadcasting networks have become more and more biased, like clearly biased. It's been a thing for a while,
Yeah.
but it's I think it's really ramped up in recent years with like just the arms race, the TV deal arms race. And if you're a broadcaster, if you're a network and you're like, well, we want the conference that we struck a deal with to look better, we're just gonna like lie to viewers and be like and just tell them like, well, this is the deepest conference in the country. It's like, okay, what's your proof there? And
But even in this situation, though, it's a bowl game with two of the same conference.
this is the single dumbest bowl game of the season.
It no, you want to know what Shadur Sanders said about this bowl game? He felt that it was the true Big 12 championship.
Yeah,
No, the true Big 12 championship was the two best teams in the Big 12. That's what the true. It was
stupid.
Arizona State and Iowa State. What are we talking about here?
Yeah, I
Mhm.
I mean, he's advertising the game. I'll give him that.
What are we doing here? Like,
It's an incredibly stupid bowl game. I just, yeah, I don't know. I watched so earlier this year. I watched Illinois Nebraska play each other, and that game I think was on Fox. Um, Clearly, I don't have a dog in that fight. I don't root for either of those teams. I don't dislike either of those teams. Um, and so I was just watching that game, and the announcers were just like so blatantly kind of rooting for Nebraska. And I was like, if I were an Illinois fan, I would be furious because they're just like hyping up the blue blood and like ignoring the team that would go on to win. It was a close game the whole time,
yeah.
and Illinois eventually won that game. I don't. This happens. This happens all the time. Colorado was the draw of that game. I think BYU going into it, I thought BYU was the better team. Colorado is the draw, and the announcers is going to play to the draw. I I do think, and again, I didn't watch the game, so I don't know actually how bad it was, but I do know they specifically acknowledged at one point that in their pre-production meetings, one of BYU's players was like, "Please talk about us. Please talk about us." And he's like, "Well, we're talking about you," because it felt like I watched the video of it. It felt like they kind of ran out of things to talk about with Colorado a little bit.
Mm,
Um, I mean, I my final point on this. I get Colorado is the draw of the game. Coach Prime, Shador Sanders, Heisman winning wide receiver and cornerback Travis Hunter. That's the draw. You talk about them for 90% of the time when the game starts. But once it turns into a whooping on behalf of BYU, you got to pivot. You got to pivot. If the team that you planned on talking about the entire time is just getting crushed, you have to pivot a little bit. That's all I have to say.
yeah, I don't have too much to add to this.
All right. Uh, let's talk about the notable bowl games. Um, Rutgers, Kansas State. Rutgers was up huge at halftime, and Kansas State made a big comeback. Interestingly enough, I watched this game. Kansas State made their comeback by not passing.
Hmm.
That's how they came back in the game. They just quit passing the ball.
All right.
Great for Kansas State as a team. Um, that's a little damning for Avery Johnson, your 5-star quarterback that you
It
ran
is.
for. Because at the end of the day, they had the same exact record. They were 9-4 last year. They finished the year 9-4 this year.
Yeah.
That's a little damning. Oklahoma lost to Navy after being up 14-0. They gave up 21 unanswered, and then went for two with like seven some seconds left. I don't know, 17 maybe, and they didn't get it.
Who wants to play in overtime in a bowl game?
No one, except for I guess South Florida, San Jose State, Pitt, and Toledo.
Yeah,
Uh,
psychopaths.
went into fifth and sixth overtime respectively.
Like I want to watch the game. I don't want to like.
I will say I did watch Pitt Toledo. That was one of the craziest overtimes I've seen with the new overtime rules. Because usually once it gets to third overtime, and you're forced to do the 2-point conversions over and over and over again.
Hmm.
Um, Usually the way it goes down is it's like failed conversion, failed conversion, failed conversion, failed conversion, and then eventually one team converts one and the other team can't. That's kind of how it works. This one, I think there was There was only one 2-point conversion not converted, and it was the last one. These two teams did a great job converting uh, when they got down to the 3 yard line.
It's glorified penalty kicks is what it is. It's
I
just another version.
I hate the new overtime rules. I think they're stupid. Um, but that was interesting. Any other interesting bowl games?
Mm,
Not really.
not
ECU and NC State got into a big fight, but
yeah. What do you call it? I believe it was the Arkansas player that stomped on a dude's leg.
I heard about that. I didn't see it.
I saw it. He plays over. There's like a pile. He takes his right foot with cleats, stomps on like a dude's ankle, basically. Uh, Releases a statement saying that he is, quote, not that type of player. It's
I
like,
saw, I
well,
saw Texas Tech.
clearly you are. Like, there's video evidence of you doing it.
Yeah, I saw the Texas Tech guy was like, "Look, all respect to the Arkansas football program. You won that game. It's a good win for your program. It's a bowl win. That dude's a dirty player."
Mm. Yeah, it was clear as day. It's like, what are
Yeah,
we doing?
there's literally
It's an exhibition game. What are we doing?
how many cameras are pointed at the field at all times?
A ton.
Yeah, like what are you doing?
Yeah.
I okay, real quick before we do get to the news, I've seen this as a talking point. The ACC is currently 1-9 in bowl games this season. A lot of people are using this as the example. They're like, "Oh, the ACC's terrible. This is why." But it's like, but bowl games haven't meant anything for like 4 years.
The only bowl games that matter are the ones that you get to play another bowl game after it. That's the
I
only bowl games that matter.
kind of right now, and in that sense, the ACC is 0-2, but like it's a
Yeah.
very small sample size. I don't know. I just think that it's overblown. The Americans 6-1 right now. I think that's also overblown because a lot of like the group of five teams are doing great in bowl games because it's just a lot of like who's most motivated.
More or less. And it's also like for these Power Five schools, it's like probably their bowl game will happen. They want to participate, and then they'll probably put their name in the portal, which is nice for them. As well as like, where these Power Five guys, they are just looking for the next best opportunity. There's
I think that's any different than the group of five people.
My bad. Let me rephrase. I think the money that is at stake, they have to get their name in sooner. Like we saw it, for example, with Penn State's backup quarterback. He wanted Drew Aller's coming back. He needs an opportunity to play. He's not even playing in the playoffs as a backup because he needs to find his spot.
Yeah,
Let me tell you, if he goes in afterwards, right, he'll find a spot, but a lot of spots that he probably wants would already be taken, so he'll have to take a lesser opportunity somewhere.
potentially, yeah.
And so what I think it is that guys are trying to find where they're going to be next year, get settled rather than play an exhibition game. Whereas these group of five schools, there is still a little bit of pride or something to say that, hey, we were the team that beat blank in this
Yeah,
game.
absolutely. I mean, if you're a group of five team, it's like, are you really gonna get up for like ECU? I mean, that's a bad example because ECU and NC State are rivals.
Right. I'm not, and it's no dog to like any of the group of five schools, but it's just the way, it's just the way it is.
Just it's just the hierarchical structure that we have. Like,
Mm-hmm.
if you were, uh, if you're Sam Houston State, I know they played another group of five, but like you're gonna get up for a game that you're playing against, like, uh, I don't know, Pitt, Toledo and Pitt. That's a good example. Toledo
Right.
and Pitt.
Like, I mean, two prime examples. Toledo beat Pitt, ECU beat NC State. Um,
Pitt ended up being down to their fourth string quarterback by
right.
the end of the game. And it's like because they had an injury to their starting quarterback and then their backup quarterback, who was a respectable college quarterback. He put
Mm.
his name, and then it becomes a situation of like, well, okay, do you really think Toledo's win over Pitt is like the purest win? Do you think you can really count that against the ACC as a whole? I'm just using the ACC because everyone's talking about that one.
Well, I mean, like they did lose to group of five schools. Like
What
UConn beat UNC.
One that is another one that I think is parallel is that USC beat Texas A&M.
They did.
That game doesn't mean anything to me. Texas A&M was one game away from making the SEC championship game, and USC sucked. That game doesn't mean anything to me.
Yeah.
Like that, I cannot use that as an example as like the Big Ten was so good this year and the SEC sucked because they're bowl games. They're non-playoff, non-New Year's Six bowl games.
They're exhibitions.
Do not mean anything.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. On to the news.
Mm-hmm.
First bit of news is a weird one. But there's been a rumor about this one for a while. Brock Vandegrift, former Kentucky quarterback, has announced that he's retiring from football.
He is.
Yeah, he was a 5-star recruit coming out of high school. He still had a year of eligibility left.
Mm. Yeah, he did. Yeah, it is crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I feel bad for the guy. Like, I will, I'll be perfectly honest. We're Louisville fans. I reveled in him playing poorly. I really I got a good sense of Schadenfreude from it. Um, I don't want the
Did
guy
you
to
know?
retire. Oh yeah, absolutely I did. I watched a lot of UCAN games this year.
They were pretty rough to watch, so I don't know why you submit yourself to that.
It's because they were rough to watch.
Ah, I see, I see. You
It's
enjoyed the
shot.
misery. You enjoy the misery, don't you?
That's
Of
what shot.
others.
Yeah, if I hate them, yeah, I hate UK. Um, but no, I don't want this guy to retire. Like he said he retired because he lost his love for football. Like that's horrible. I feel bad for this guy because like I saw someone sum it up best. Everywhere he was a 5-star because he was physically just so like gifted. Dude's got a cannon. He's big. He's fast. Everywhere he went at every level, he was the guy. People were probably telling him like, "Dude, you're a surefire NFL draft pick. You only get rated a 5-star because these recruiting services think, oh, you're a future first round NFL draft pick."
Yep.
And he goes to Georgia, who at the time was like the king of all football programs. He wins 2 national championships while he's there as a backup. Um, and then he decides, oh, I'm going to get my shot at Kentucky, which is another SEC school. So he's like, I'm still playing in the SEC. And he's just not good enough at this level. And he lost his love for the game. It's sad. It's sad. If he like truly wanted to play football still, he could like make the transition to tight end or something because he's not a quarterback. But I don't know. It's sad. I enjoyed watching all of Kentucky's misery, but this is sad.
Yeah.
There's nothing else to it really.
Nope.
At least I did hear someone report that he got a bachelor's from Georgia and he got a master's from Kentucky, or
Oh,
at
there you
least
go.
he's in the process of getting his master's from Kentucky. So he will be set
He's getting his education. Good on him.
for free.
Yeah. Actually, he probably got paid.
You're right. He probably got paid quite
Probably got
handsomely.
paid to get an education.
It's nice. It's nice.
Yeah.
Uh, Another bit of quarterback news: um, Kyle McCord has just been granted a waiver, an eligibility waiver, which means he has one more year of college football.
Yeah, he sure does.
He has because the portal's passed. He hasn't put his name in it. He's going
Mm.
back to Syracuse next season. Uh,
He had a good year.
he had a great year. I mean, he played so much better. I Here's the thing. I thought people were hating on Kyle McCord unfairly, just because I think Ohio State had been used to like top 5 pick after top 5 pick after top 5 pick for so long, and then Kyle McCord comes in and he wasn't playing like a top 5 pick last year, and so a bunch of Ohio State fans were like, "Well, he sucks at quarterback. He can't play."
Also,
That's
like the expectation at Ohio State is just so immense. Like
yeah,
it's national championship or bust year in and year out. We're still waiting to see if their head coach is going to get fired, and they're in the playoff.
yeah. I mean, the dude, they went 11-1, and he put up I think 30 passing touchdowns.
But it wasn't good enough.
Yeah, he played really well last year. But yeah, I mean it's huge for Syracuse. Who Fran Brown, I was not necessarily a believer preseason. I was wrong about that. I think he did a very good job going 93 in year one.
So speaking of McCord's great year in
Yes.
2024, right? He
Hmm.
now sets the all-time leader for passing yards in a season in ACC history. The record that he set was 4,594 yards. Can you name the other four players that are in the top five?
My first guess is Cam Ward. Is
No,
he in there?
Cam Ward is
No.
not in there. I will give you a hint, all within 2000. So they're all within the year 2000 and on.
Jameis Winston.
No,
Oh man. Okay. A Heisman candidate and a Heisman winner are not in there.
there is
That's
a
fun.
Heisman candidate in here. Actually, there could be a couple. I'm not sure, honestly.
Um. When did Vinny Testaverde go in the draft?
He is not on there.
Okay. Um.
You know all these names.
I know. I know. I'm gonna know all these names. Donovan McNabb.
No.
No, I'm just burning through names. I thought I would do good at this. Okay. Philip Rivers.
Yes, Philip Rivers is fourth NC State in 2003, I believe.
Yeah. He either has the most or the second most ACC touchdowns in history. I don't remember if it's the most or the second most. The other one who is either most or second most is Lamar Jackson, I believe.
Okay. You have three more. Would you
Mhm.
like any schools?
Let me guess. Let me guess one more time before I don't
Okay.
know this. Um, Matt Ryan.
Yes, third.
Okay. Okay. So we got okay. Um, Matt Ryan, Philip Rivers. I mean, who else we got out of the ACC? Probably not Russell Wilson because he had some mobility. So I don't think he's going to get all those
I'll give you a
votes.
hint. One of them's a lefty.
Lefty.
I can give you the school and give it away.
Oh, Vic?
No.
No, yeah, because Vic was a runner too. So, ah, hmm. I don't.
2021, this lefty.
2021 lefty.
2021 lefty.
Who was a left-handed quarterback in 2021? That was like 3 years ago.
All right, I'll give you a big hint.
Yeah,
Virginia.
Virginia. Oh, Brennan Armstrong.
There you go.
I
That
forgot
was
he.
num
I forgot he had a monster year.
that was number five. Now number two
That
was a
was all.
Heisman candidate as well.
Brennan Armstrong's also crazy because he was like a run first guy for a while
Was he?
for the majority of his career. Yeah,
Huh.
and so it's crazy. He's like, eh, that's it's that's the Robert and I offense right there. It makes quarterbacks look better than they are.
All right, Heisman candidate.
What do you think would be? Give me whatever you think would be the harder hint: school or year.
I mean, they're both just gonna give it away.
Heisman candidate, quarterback, ACC. I don't
Year of our Lamar,
Lamar. Who? I have no
2016.
2016. I have no clue. Oh, is it Deshaun?
There you go.
Okay, yeah, Deshaun.
It
Deshaun,
is.
Mr. Massage himself. Uh,
He broke Mr. Massage's record
yeah. All right.
by a whole yard, actually.
A whole yard.
A whole yard.
Look at that.
Every pass matters.
All right. Well, that was fun. I did very poorly.
I mean, you named some good quarterbacks. It's just they weren't slinging the rock back in those days.
I mean, I didn't go back that far though, is the thing.
No, I think the oldest quarterback here is Philip
The oldest,
Rivers.
the oldest one I mentioned was Vinny Testaverde.
Yeah.
But all right. Last bit of football news. South Dakota State's head coach has left. He's taking the Washington State job. Their quarterback also has put his name in the portal. He's presumed to follow Washington State. Will follow his coach to Washington State. Rob Gronowski,
Hmm.
I believe is his name.
We'll see. See what Washington State has cooking. See if those FCS boys can play at the next level.
Yeah, he's apparently a very, very highly touted quarterback. Um, we'll see.
It'll be fun.
Yeah, I will say I do think that this. I think uh, South Dakota State was trending in the direction of becoming the program at the FCS level,
Mm,
kind of overtaking North Dakota State for that. I think this eliminates that.
yeah, it kind of does do that because it's like, is a coach satisfied being at the top of the FCS level, or do they want to challenge themselves for the next level? I
And I think
mean,
coach was the reason that South Dakota State was so good.
all I'm saying, FCS didn't Kalen DeBoer come from FCS
Caitlin DeBoer came from NAIA.
and then went to a Washington school?
Yeah, I think went to
Just
NAIA.
saying.
Um, he might have coached at the FCS level. I don't know. He became Indiana's offense coordinator at some
I
point,
gotcha.
and then he left Indiana for Fresno State, and then to Washington
I
now.
mean, it's just a question of, I mean, it's got to be money at some point. It's got to be money because
Money and ego
there's
a little bit. You want to test yourself. You want to see if you can be.
obviously, yeah, you want to see if you're good enough at the next level.
But like a school like the Dakotas or the Montanas at the FCS,
It's elite level.
it's elite FCS, so they make enough money to where you can be financially secure, especially in a low cost of living area. So like you could, if you want to stay there, you can be set for life.
You could, yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe they want that crazy money, that monopoly money.
Hey, we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see how it works out. We'll see who South Dakota State lands because that's going to be really interesting.
Hmm.
Moving on to basketball, the fun one. That's right, basketball. Jim Larranaga,
Yeah.
Miami's head
Hmm.
coach. Talking a lot of Miami.
Yeah, we are.
Um, Jim Larranaga is stepping down in the middle of the season. He is resigning.
Hmm.
Uh, they got off to a 4-8 start. They started off 3-0 and actually looked really good in those three games. And then they kind of fell apart. Went on an 8-game losing streak. Won their last game, and now Jim Larranaga is stepping down. It sucks. Jim Larranaga is a legend.
He is. It does just make me wonder because it's like we look at all these coaches that have left since NIL has come in, whether or not it's for retirement purposes. I mean, like I imagine Larranaga's retiring. Like this is
Yeah, he's in his 70s. He's done.
right. So I mean, like you have Jay Wright, you have Tony Bennett, you have Krzyzewski, Roy Williams, you have all these guys. NIL comes around and they're out of it. Not to say that
Roy Williams said that the reason he retired is just because he felt like he wasn't a good coach anymore. In his press conference he was like, I would call a timeout, and then everyone would get in the huddle and I wouldn't know what the situation was.
mm,
He never quoted NIL the transfer portal as to why he
I'm
was.
not quoting NIL as the reason. I just the timing of it all.
Yeah, yeah, just in the NIL era.
Right. In the NIL era, these legendary coaches are leaving. And I truly do wonder what the reasoning is on why these coaches are so successful and then all of a sudden not in this era. And it truly makes me wonder, is it because they don't have complete control over these guys now? Like, like I truly wonder what the reasoning behind these guys are. It's like, is it part of it like they can't develop the guys anymore because they want opportunities, so they leave? Is it another part of it like they just don't want to deal with the money aspect of it? Like they're like, screw you, you're 18. Who are you to tell me?
I think it's like different levels for each
I
situation.
imagine it is. I just truly wonder what it is though, because it's like,
Larranaga said that after they made it to the Final Four in 2022, he said this in his press conference, announcing that he was retiring or stepping down.
right.
I think it's his retirement though. After they went to the Final Four, 8 different players went up to him and were like, "Hey, we're going to enter the portal." It's like we just made the Final Four.
Yeah.
You don't want to
And
try to run us back?
well, it's not even like that, I think. I think at some point players have to recognize their opportunity costs. And it's like, I just made this run with this team. I kind of have to see what's out there.
Yeah, but it's like how many you made this run. You were on this team that made this run. It's like, but you weren't playing. The run came from Isaiah Wong and Nigel Pack and Norchad Omir. That's where the and Wooka Poplar. Like that's where the run came from.
Right.
And like Danilo Jovanovic transferring. It's like, okay, but you played literally 2 minutes all year.
And I think that might be a reason why he did transfer. I think there's always a reason for to put your name in the portal, whether it's to see what opportunities out there because you built a brand for yourself and it's good on you, or if it's like I'm not going to be able to build a brand here. There's a fine line that we're seeing right now where it's like as far as like college basketball goes, you do not want the five-star recruit as far as I'm concerned. You do not want the one and done guy. You want the guy that's really, really, really good at college basketball, but not good in the NBA. You want a Luke Garza. You want like a I like a Keyshawn Gilbert. You want a Janai Broom, who is phenomenal year in and year out, but he's not good enough for the next level for whatever reason. Like you gotta find these diamonds to be really successful in this sport, and I think it's very hard.
Yeah, I think you want a balance of some 5 stars as well.
I
Because
don't know, honestly. Like
I
we'll
think
see what Duke does this year. Like because Duke is a straight one and done team this year.
yeah,
And I think they have the most talent in the world. But I mean, like, is it going to equate to a national championship?
no, it's not.
Right.
I'm not a believer in
Right. You're not a believer, right?
yeah,
But it's hard to argue that right now they don't have three lottery picks on that team right now.
they absolutely have 3 lottery picks. Yeah.
Right.
I
And
will this is a quick, very quick side note, a quick
yeah.
aside. This upcoming NBA draft is going to be way more fun than drafts in the past
Well, last
because
year stunk.
there's going to be a lot of college players taken. A
Yeah.
lot of it's going to be a lot of people that fans can be like, oh my god, he got picked, he got picked, he got picked. It's going to be fun again.
Yeah.
But
At least from the American perspective, where a lot of international guys go in the draft and you're like, who?
yeah, I don't watch Ukrainian basketball. I don't know who this guy is.
Right. But yeah. I like how do you find these guys? Like how do you find like the guy that's like, okay, he's really good at this level, but he doesn't have the step to make it to the next level.
That's where a GM comes in handy.
And it's very, very fascinating.
Yeah, that's where I think you need a GM. Because that takes. I mean, I think the solution to this is having a GM, but also like rules in place to just make this less like just make it less terrible. Because I agree that the players run the ship.
Of course.
They're the reason that the
It's
revenue
a
comes
full
in.
180.
But also, this has to be sustainable for coaches because, like,
What do you mean by sustainable for them?
the job can't be 24/7, 365.
I see.
Like there has to be a sense of security as far as like, okay, I have a team. Let's hope I don't have to bring in 11 transfers next year. Because if you have to do that every single year, there's not enough consistency there. It's too much work. You can't build the way you used to. And I know just because it's not the same as it used to be doesn't mean it's worse.
I
I
mean,
just think you're seeing all these greats just hang it up because they're like, I don't want to deal with this.
to be fair, there have been coaches in the past that before NIL would rotate their rosters year in and year out.
Yeah, but I mean, how much success were they having?
Not that much.
After Cal's stretch, where he made 4 Final Fours in 5 years, they didn't have that much success
No, they didn't.
because that era was short lived. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, you just have to be able to build. I don't know.
It's definitely harder. There's no defined blueprint where it used to be where you could be a Tony Bennett or a Coach K and you're like, okay, I'm going to bring this guy in. He's really talented. He's raw. I'm going to develop him. You also have to keep that guy happy. And I think
Yeah,
that's the hardest part for these coaches is like these guys, if they're not happy and they're 18, right? They're going to pursue something else because they're not happy and they're not enjoying it. Even though
And
that's may not what they need.
so, with the current restraining order that the states of Tennessee and Virginia have on the NCAA as far as punishing teams over NIL, you're starting to see more and more schools kind of like dip their toes into like, okay, I know they're not employees yet, but like we're gonna write these NIL contracts like they're 2 year contracts because we've seen that a little bit because we've seen like incentives with bowl games and you know like you're not gonna get all your money at once. You have to like play into the season a certain amount.
Yeah.
And one of the more interesting cases to me is I think it was his name is Bryce Underwood, the quarterback going to Michigan.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's reported that he got a $10 million NIL deal. That's not over 1 year. That's 10 million over multiple years because Duke, the quarterback they're bringing in the portal, he's getting 8 million for 1 year, reportedly by CBS.
Hmm.
That's supposed to be the highest ever. So if this guy from Michigan's getting 10 million, that's not over 1 year. That's over multiple years. A lot of these schools are going to have to start doing that. They're going to have to start recruiting, you know, these 4-star recruits out of high school and be like, okay, here's a 2 year deal. Stay here for 2 years. Then we'll see.
I don't even think also it's like if I'm a 4-star recruit, there has to be a clause in there where it's like I can leave if I'm going to the league. There
Yeah,
has to be.
yeah, of course. But
So I
like
mean,
the thing is, most 4 stars probably aren't going to the NBA.
yeah,
After there's
maybe not. Yeah.
not a lot of one and done 4 stars. That's pretty. That's kind of exclusive for the guys that were like very, very, very underrated coming out of high school.
Right.
Um, and so that's how you're gonna have to like build your program. You gotta you gotta get these 4 stars. You gotta give them multiple year deals, and then build from there. You gotta go out in the portal and get guys who have 2 years of eligibility left, and be like, okay, here's a contract for 2 years of your time. And if you want to like breach the contract at some point, cool. But you're not gonna get all the money. Like there's gonna be some sort of like repercussion financial.
Yeah.
And we're starting to see schools do that. And we're also starting to see schools hire GMs for multiple sports, which takes away a lot of the evaluating, takes away a lot of the scouting your own team and recruiting your own team, takes away a lot of the coaches having to deal with NIL contracts and everything. And I think that's the way you got to go. You're going to have to treat it more like a business, and you need GMs. But more on Larranaga because he is a great coach. He's the best coach in Miami basketball history. Has the most wins ever. He took them to their first ever Final Four. I believe he took them to their first ever Elite Eight too. I think.
Mm.
Like Miami is a terrible program historically, um, but he was able to have success there. He also took George Mason to the Final Four. He's one of only a handful of coaches that have ever taken multiple schools to the Final Four. So, Larranaga,
Yeah.
great, great coach. He's got that, you know, huggable grandpa teddy bear type of look to him.
Hmm.
Even though, fun fact, at George Mason, he was caught doing the same thing that Andre McGee did at Louisville.
Really?
Yeah, but no one cares because he just looks so nice.
Oh,
Yeah, Rick Pitino, I get it. He's kind of an a-hole. So, you know,
you go have fun, sport. That's
yeah,
probably how he said it.
Larranaga, they're like, Pop, come
Jeez.
here, come here.
Jeez.
All right, you want to talk about Florida State?
Sure, let's talk about it.
They're getting sued.
Well, Florida State isn't getting sued.
Leonard Hamilton is.
Leonard Hamilton's getting sued. And why is Leonard Hamilton getting sued, you might ask? It's for unpaid NIL by 6 former players. Listed on the lawsuit in Circuits Court, whatever it's called in
Circuit Court.
Circuit Court. Yeah. Basically alleges that each of these 6 players were owed $50,000. And they didn't get paid. They actually boycotted a practice because they weren't getting paid. And Leonard Hamilton lied to their faces saying, "You will get paid. The money will come there shortly." And this was the week before they played Duke on February 17th. So it is very unfortunate. Or fortunate. It's very unfortunate that these happen to these guys, and there isn't laws on the books to protect them.
Yeah. Um,
Nothing was in writing, nothing was in text, nothing was. It was all verbally promised to them, is what they proposed, which I don't know if they have a leg to stand on off of that. It will be interesting to see, but also at the same time, it's like,
I mean, it could be fraud. You
yeah,
could.
Leonard Hamilton is coming off as a little bit of POS here, if I do say so.
I think he has his entire career.
Yeah.
I think he's been pretty hated his entire career. Uh, yeah, Leonard Hamilton, he just sucks. He's also, I don't know. Leonard Hamilton's another guy that like I think he was probably cheating before NIL. Like I think he was probably paying
Mm.
$1,000 under the table.
Well,
Uh,
now when he's allowed to pay guys, he doesn't want to.
well, because everyone's allowed to pay, and so when everyone's allowed to pay and be open about it, and B when the price increases, you can't just get all the talent like you used to, and so
Mm.
now he's having to coach more, and his teams are worse for it because he can't just get. I mean, there was a crazy stretch where Florida State was having like 3 lottery picks on each team they had. Like they just had so many lottery picks on their team, and they would just hoard them and hoard them and hoard them. And it's like I don't. How are they trotting out like a starting lineup where everyone's 6'8" or taller, and 3 of them are going to go top 14 of the draft?
I mean, just in recent years, it is Scotty Barnes, Patrick Williams, Devin Vassales,
Love Devin Vassell.
Jonathan Isaac, Malik Beasley, Chris Singleton. Well, that's all the way back in 2011, but we'll stop there. But yeah,
Yeah, he got all these NBA guys, and now it's legal. And also, this is not the first time Florida State's collective has been accused of promising people money and then not giving them money.
yeah.
That happened in the football program as well. So I don't know. Maybe there's some shady things going on in Tallahassee. Who knows? But yeah, this has got to be like I don't know, between Florida State basketball sucking the past couple of years, uh, Florida State football just being horrible this year, and then all the problems that they've had with NIL, it's not the best advertisement for high school recruits. It doesn't scream like, "Hey guys, be a Seminole," because we we do things right here. We're a professional program. We can come to win. It doesn't seem like any of that's true
No,
because they're losing and they're screwing people out of money allegedly.
allegedly.
Yeah, in a video game in Minecraft.
Hmm.
But I don't know. There's not really much else to say.
No.
Yeah, hope they get their money. So, you want to talk about players and not players, but teams in college basketball that have been disappointments or surprises this
Hmm.
season?
Well,
Because
disappointment from.
well, with college basketball, it's heating up. We're entering conference play. This is the start of conference play essentially, which is where you find out who all are the actual contenders and who are the pretenders.
Um, One team that stands out to me is I got a couple of Big 12 teams, and it's kind of weird to say because one of them is not traditionally a Big 12 team, and that is Arizona. I thought Arizona with Caleb Love coming back and their transfer of Trey Townsend, I thought, yeah, that works. I was like, that makes so much sense.
It has not.
And then the other one that I'm not against it yet, but it's also like Baylor I had top six preseason.
I Baylor like 3 or something.
Right, and it's like VJ Edgecombe is just not it. He's a good player, but he's not like a top 10 pick right now, in my opinion.
But I mean,
And then
I
like,
with Baylor, so with Arizona, I'm not that shocked, honestly. Like I had them pretty low in our top 30
hmm
because I thought losing Ballo and Boswell, I thought they were pretty big losses, and it turns out I was right.
hmm
With Baylor though, I'm a little shocked that they're not better than they are. I but two of their top four players are young, so it's like we do need to give them some time.
I mean, was it? Yeah, I guess in some way, but it's like Jeremy Roach was I thought was a great transfer. What's his name? Omir? No chart Omir?
Shadow Mir.
Yeah, I thought he was a great transfer. I
Yeah.
mean, I don't know, like on paper this makes sense. It should work.
Yeah.
And it's not saying it's not working, but it's also like it's not the expectation I had.
I mean, part of that I think could be Scott Drew, since winning the championship, has not quite been the same coach because Jerome Tang he was kind of like the defensive coordinator of that team. And since Jerome Tang left, the defense has fallen off a cliff.
Mm.
Jerome Tang might be back on staff soon because he's kind of flailing at Kansas State right now. Um, and also the guys on his teams can't stop getting in trouble and like
hmm
kicked out of the university. So it's just speculation, but it might happen in the next couple of years. Jerome Tang might Baylor staff.
And those are like two teams that are like they're still tournament teams, but like the other teams that I can think of off the top of my head, it's like Creighton. Creighton was what, like a 3 seed?
Oh yeah,
Now they're
Creighton.
now they're not like a tournament team.
Yeah, Creighton's been a huge disappointment.
And then
Uh,
I thought North Carolina was going to be legit with the best backcourt in the league, and
yeah,
that's not working.
no, I mean that's
Like RJ Davis and Elliot Cadeau, I was like, oh, perfect. I forgot
it.
the one major factor. Armo Baycott,
Yeah,
they don't have a rebounder.
no, and they really
Cade
didn't get.
Tyson, I was like, oh, great 3-point shooter. Gonna be a great wing, right? Barely plays.
Yeah, the closest thing they honestly, the closest thing they have on their roster to a center is Jalen Withers, and Withers just hangs out at the perimeter.
Yeah,
Like I
they
just
are
I don't know what to think of Hubert Davis, man.
like to
He
give you an idea right now for North Carolina, their most played lineup right now is RJ Davis, Elliot Cadeau, Ian Jackson, Seth Trimble, and Drake Powell. And
that's like three guards and two small forwards.
the tallest guy on the court is 6'6". And
Yeah.
that's Drake Powell, a true freshman.
Look, you can play small. Teams have shown in the past you can go at you can trot a team with no center and still be a good effective team. The problem is either you have to have a guy that's undersized that plays way above his size, or you have to have a guy or you have to have a unit that compensates for their lack of size in so many ways. Like if you trot out a lineup, a rotation of five guys who are all 6'6" or shorter, you have to be I mean, you just have to be able to just blow by everyone on the dribble. You
hmm
need lights out 3-point shooting, or you need like great perimeter defense, something like that. They're not doing that. They're
No,
not.
they're
They're not.
not.
They don't have a guy that can play. They don't have a guy who's 6'6" but plays like he's 6'9". They don't have that, and that's been the detriment of this team. They're like 8-5 right now, I think.
They're 8-5. But I mean, like, as funny as it means 8-5, they still have good wins. Like they've beaten Dayton, they've beaten UCLA, but then like every other game that they're supposed to be competitive in, they've lost. Like Auburn, they got smoked. Alabama, they got smoked. Kansas, they lost by 3. Florida, they lost by 6. Michigan State, they went in overtime too. So it's like they're there with like the good teams. It's just they're just not eking them out.
The thing about all of those games is every single one of their loss. Actually, there's one loss where they got blown out. I think. Uh,
Auburn and Alabama, they got blown out. One's a 15-point loss, the other one's a 13-point loss.
So there are three other losses outside of Auburn and Alabama, and they're good wins. All of those games, they were down by huge margins,
Yeah.
and they came storming back. And so it's like it's it's like even in the course of a game, it's like this team is just Jekyll and Hyde, and it's like, what team are we getting at any given moment, any given night? Are you good or are you bad? Like I can't make heads or tails of this UNC team.
Mm,
I just don't get it. It's the same thing that I've got with Hubert Davis. He will one year have a display of phenomenal coaching, and then the next year some of the worst coaching I've seen. And it's
yeah,
like, just pick one, man. Be good or be bad.
right.
I don't get it. I can't make sense of it. I don't know. I just don't
So
know.
we'll see. Their next game is against Louisville at
Yeah.
Louisville.
Yep. That's a toss up game in my opinion.
That's what Ken Palm has it as. It's a 1 point game. So it'll be interesting. I'll counter the question for you.
Yes.
Who's been a pleasant surprise for you?
Pleasant surprise. So Oklahoma's been really good. Oklahoma's been really good. Um, they're 13-0. Jeremiah Fears looks incredible. Like that guy's so good. Oh my god. And he's only like 17. It's crazy how good Jeremiah Fears is. And they've got a good backcourt as well. They're a physical defense. I think Oklahoma's I think Oklahoma's really good. Um, I, this is an interesting one, but Drake, they're 12-0.
Drake is good.
Drake is really good. Was I was singing the praises of Ben McCollum. He's such a good coach. You don't win like what did they win like 4 out of 5 D2 national championships?
Mm.
But you don't do that unless your coach is insane, and he's insane. He's
Hmm.
the right type of crazy to where they're like, I mean, he might be a one and done or a Drake, depending on what jobs open up.
So what's interesting about the Drake team right now is their point guard, Bennett Stritz.
Yeah,
Guess how many minutes a game he's playing?
I'm gonna say 36.
39 and a half. He only came out for 1 game. He's played every minute of every game.
I mean, they play pretty slow tempo, so it's possible.
They are extremely slow.
Yeah,
So yeah,
they also
considering their
they
average possession is 22 seconds. So they use most of that clock.
yeah, and they play a physical defense. They play like up in your face. Like they guard you. They do not give ball handlers any room to breathe. They're a fun team to watch. Georgetown has been I've been pleasantly surprised with Georgetown.
Really?
They are 11-2.
Huh.
Considering what they've done in the past, which which let me they won 9 games all of last year. They won 7 games the year before that, before Ed Cooley came, and then 6 games the year before that. I think before Ed Cooley got there, they had lost 40 straight Big 12 games.
We'll chill.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, Georgetown was just a disaster before Ed Cooley got there. An absolute disaster. And it was a program that like has great history. Great history. And Ed Cooley, he's done a great job turning it around. I know they've had a pretty easy non-conference schedule. That was
Hmm.
by um we'll see. We'll see what happens when they get into Big East play. They did beat Creighton by 30.
Yeah.
Like as, as big a disappointment as Creighton is, that's a huge win.
It's great. It's a great win.
Yeah, beating a team with the talent that Creighton has by 30, that's big. And so Georgetown, that's a team to keep an eye on, see how they do in conference play.
Yeah.
A team that's been a disappointment, sort of. I don't know. I don't know if I would call them a disappointment because I didn't have very high expectations for them. But Arkansas,
They're
they're
10
ten,
and 2.
they're 10-2, but they don't look great.
Really?
No, I don't think. I don't think
I
so.
mean, they beat Michigan.
Yeah, Michigan's been a nice surprise as well. Um, I don't know. As far as perception, I think it was a good hire for Arkansas. As far as actual coaching acumen, it wasn't because Cal's been his coaching style and philosophy has been outdated for so long at this point.
Mm.
The dribble drive is an old, outdated offense. Just doesn't work. And so I don't know. You're bringing this guy who has this outdated scheme, who keeps losing games in the tournament that he should not lose, and you're bringing him to your coach. It's a recipe for disaster for Arkansas.
Mm.
I'm not surprised. Like Cal's gonna get one contract, and then once that contract's up, they're gonna move on.
You think?
Yes, unless he retires before the contract's up.
Mm.
The only way, because I don't think they're very good. They're a tournament team. They're gonna make the tournament, but they're probably gonna lose in the tournament to someone they should not lose to because their offense is too easy to scheme around. Their defense is not what John Calipari defenses of the past have been.
Mm.
It's just I don't have any expectations for Arkansas. And then of course I think UConn, a little bit of a disappointment. I know they've righted the ship after starting off 4-3, but I
I just
also
don't think Connecticut's that great right now.
no I don't either. And I think
I,
their schedule has been easy.
yeah, I mean, like they got the Gonzaga win. I was surprised by. It's a good win,
Yeah,
but like, yeah, they're just not that great. That Maui, I mean, if you take out Maui, they look great. Like they've won every game other than Maui.
yeah, but like I don't know if you're not high on Baylor, a home game against Baylor where you won by 4 in a game where the refs tried everything they could do to help you win that game, that's not a great look. Beating a Texas team that I'm not super high on, okay. Uh, Beating a Gonzaga team, it was at a neutral site, but it was in Brooklyn,
Mm.
so it's like you had a lot of your fans there. And Gonzaga, they keep fading as of late too. They have 4 losses now,
Yeah, they do.
so I'm not.
But also, Gonzaga has gone out of their way to schedule a very, very hard beginning of the season. Like
Yeah,
they opened up their thing with Baylor, Arizona State, UMass Loyola, and San Diego State. All four of those teams, in my opinion, are going to be tournament teams. Like UMass, I don't know how to say it, Louisville, they're gonna beat Vermont and they're gonna take the American East. Um
what school are you looking at?
UMass Louisville,
Uh,
American East team.
Lowell, Lowell,
Yeah,
Lowell.
yeah.
Yeah,
But yeah, anyway. Um
I mean, the thing is, Gonzaga does this every year, and Mark Few is a coach who is phenomenal at getting the best out of his team early in the season, and so it's kind of similar to what they had last year as far as like they're dropping some games early in the year, they're
yeah.
and then they're gonna go on a run in conference play. I just I don't know. The problem with Gonzaga last year was that essentially they had a 7-man rotation, right? Was it 6 or 7?
Last year,
Yeah, they had like no bench.
I can look at it.
The problem is they had like no bench, but they brought everyone back. They graduated one person and they brought in 2 people in the portal that were going to be contributors. So your bench gets bigger, but it gets bigger by one person. And now, as of late, I believe they've had an injury, which means like, well, okay, you have an injury. if your bench got bigger by one person to start the year, well then the injury just brings you back to how deep you were last year. And I'm looking at it. They did not have an injury, but it might have been like in the midst of a game that I was watching them play.
Mm.
So I don't know. This team has similar issues as they did last year, I think. And the team last year was a good, not great Gonzaga team. So and going into the year, everyone kind of thought they were going to be a great Gonzaga team. After they beat Baylor by 40, everyone's like, "Oh yeah, okay, that might be the best team in the country."
Hmm.
It just doesn't look like it anymore. I don't know. Kind
Yeah.
of a lot for disappointments and surprises. Do you have any more?
No,
All right, let's move on to the pick'ems.
let's do it.
All right, so pick'ems. We're going to continue the pick'ems with bowl season, starting out with Alabama versus Michigan in the Hall of Fame game. Um, I don't. This is not to me. This isn't a very good game.
I got Alabama.
Yeah, I said Hall of Fame game. I meant the Hall of Fame bowl, but you know what I
Yeah.
meant. Yeah, I've got Alabama as well. I don't know. I just don't think it's going to be a very good game.
Right.
Next up, we have Louisville and Washington in the Sun Bowl. I mean, go
Going
Frogs.
Washington.
You're picking Washington?
Who do we have playing?
I mean,
Colin Lacey?
Colin Lacey is playing. Yeah.
That's it. Everybody else is in the draft.
No. Isaac Brown's playing. Duke Watson's playing. I'm picking Louisville. Louisville's going to run the ball in this game. That's going to be their.
They have to. Holy crap, do they? They better hope it works too. Now, this is
They
without me
got.
knowing anything about this Washington team.
So the thing is, okay, I've Washington. They have a really, really, really good pass defense, and they on paper have a respectable run defense. But the thing is, in all 6 games that they lost this year, the run defense was awful. Like I think they gave up over 200 yards rushing either 3 or 4 times this year in their losses. And so basically, if you can run on this team, you're going to beat them. So I've got,
Gotcha.
I think Louisville's just going to pound the rock all game long. Next up, we have South Carolina versus Illinois in the Citrus Bowl.
It's a fun one if
This is a
everyone's playing.
this is a fun one. I'm going to take Illinois actually.
I'm going South Carolina.
My brain says South Carolina, but I don't know for whatever reason. I'm just feeling like Illinois is going to upset them.
Okay.
I don't really know why. Next up, we have Baylor versus LSU. This is a really interesting one because Baylor's a team that's done way better than expected, and
Yeah.
LSU's done way worse than expected.
Give me the team that's way worse. LSU.
I'm going to take Baylor just because I think it's going to be a motivation thing.
Mm.
I think they're feeling better than themselves about themselves than LSU is. Baylor
Okay.
also, interestingly enough, is favored in this game.
Yeah, too. You want to do the
Uh,
playoff last?
yeah, we'll do that. Why not? It's a good idea. Next up, we have the Gator Bowl. We have Duke versus Ole Miss. I'm pretty sure Ole Miss has a lot of people playing in this game.
Yeah,
So
I'm going Ole Miss.
yeah.
Yeah.
Next up, we have the First Responders Bowl. We have North Texas versus Texas State.
Give me Texas.
Texas State?
See what I did there?
No, I saw what you did. I was
Yeah, Texas State. I don't know. They had that one year where they brought in a lot of transfers and they looked good, but that was last year. I don't know
yeah.
about this year.
I think they've taken a step back. I think they went 8-4 last year. They're 6-6 this year.
Gotcha.
Um, they were my pick to be the proof
Mm.
for the playoff. Oh well, didn't work out. Next we have Minnesota versus Virginia Tech in the Queen City Bowl, aka the Duke's Mayo Bowl. I can take Minnesota.
Yeah,
I
same.
don't think I
I
don't
don't like either of these teams though.
and neither of them are very good. I just think Minnesota's like
Yeah.
I think they've had a little more life to them. It's another situation of like Virginia Tech way underperformed expectations that the national media set up.
Mhm.
I didn't understand the hype, but
Yeah.
a lot of people picked them to win the ACC. They went 6-6.
Gotcha.
Next up, we have Buffalo versus Liberty in the Bahamas Bowl. There
I'm
we go.
going Liberty.
I'm gonna take. Uh, I love Jamie Chadwell as a coach, but I'm gonna take Buffalo. Yeah, I'm gonna go with Buffalo. All right, playoff time. These are in neutral site games, no longer being played on home fields, campus sites.
Hmm.
Start off with being played on New Year's Eve. We got Penn State versus Boise State.
Hmm.
Yes. Hmm.
I'm going Boise State.
It's a good.
The reason why I'm going Boise State is for the first time this season, Ashton Genty is going to have a completely healthy offensive line.
Are you serious?
That is correct.
Wow. Also, he's had. I mean, how much rest has he had?
Like a month.
Yeah, he's gonna be fresh. That's
I'm
you
going
know
Boise.
you got a good point there. Completely healthy offensive line. He's gonna be fresh for the first time in like basically since what, who did they play week 1? Georgia Southern when he had 6 rushing touchdowns. I mean,
I like Boise in this matchup, honestly.
okay. I mean, I like the pick. I think it's gonna be a close game, but give me Penn State.
Okay.
All right. Next up, we have the Peach Bowl. You have Texas versus Arizona
State.
State. I don't know why I just put Arizona. It's Arizona State. Texas versus Arizona State. I've talked about this one for a long time. I think Arizona State's going to win.
I don't see it at all. I see Texas.
I think regardless of who won that Clemson Texas game, I thought Arizona State was better than both.
Mm.
So I'm just sticking to my guns. Give me the Sun Devils. The Rose Bowl. It's a good old fashioned Rose Bowl. We got Ohio State versus Oregon. It's a rematch, but this feels like a Big Ten Pac-12 game. I hate that Oregon's the Big Ten. It's so stupid. Anyway, I'm gonna go with Oregon.
I'm going Ohio State.
I just think that I don't know. I just think Oregon's gonna be able to just replicate their success.
Gotcha.
We'll see. Notre Dame versus Georgia in the Sugar Bowl. Sugar Bowl. Georgia has a shorter distance to travel, being that the
Same
Sugar
could
Bowl.
be said about the Rose Bowl for Oregon.
Yep. But Georgia also is not going to have Carson Beck. They're going to have Gunnar Stockton playing this game.
Hmm.
Who you got?
I'm going Georgia.
I'm going Notre Dame.
All right.
I
I
think we're
think we went completely different on the playoff.
we did.
How about that?
How
Which
about that?
should mean it should be good games.
Should be. Um, no, I just think that Gunnar Stockton's not going to look good. I just can't imagine because like
I mean, he
in
held
my
his own against Texas. I know
no,
you're not high on Texas, but I still was looked at it and I'm like, he did his part. He did what
there's
he needed to do. Played a whole half.
but there's a difference between being thrust into a game versus being the named starter for the game.
Nerves are nerves. I mean, like, I think
Yeah, but
what he
so
did against
what
Georgia, against Texas was harder.
I don't think so because the defense doesn't have any time to prepare for that. Do you really think that Texas was taking time out of their week to prepare for Gunnar Stockton?
No.
Exactly. They weren't they didn't even think about this guy. So he comes into the game. It's a completely different game plan that they're not ready for. Notre Dame, on the other hand, knows Gunnar Stockton's going to play. If I'm Notre Dame, I'm going to be like, okay, I'm putting 8 guys in the box. I'm going to dare him to throw on us.
All right.
I'm going to dare this guy to try to beat us down the field because I don't think he can. Not on a consistent basis, at least. And so it's a different thing. I think Notre Dame's going to win. All right, our game of the week. We have the FCS National Championship. It's North Dakota State versus Montana State.
Go
Me,
Dakotas.
you picking North Dakota State?
Why not? Let's pick the dog.
Yeah, I'm picking Montana State. They've just been clearly the dominant team. But man, that's
Yeah,
it. That's our show.
that is our show.
We hope you enjoyed it. We hope you pick along with us. If you're still watching, we do it on YouTube and our polls. So we'll see you next time.